you don't actually own your money. The moment you put it in the bank, and this is the thing I don't like about the system as it is, it's kind of rigged against the ordinary person. So we're going to have your jobs replaced, you're going to have this societal change, and yet they don't get a chance. What job is going to be replaced by a robot or the AI?
I'm not actually shitting myself, I've got to be honest, because I see opportunity in all these things.
The best thing I can say to people is, listen, 2032, 2034, that is not long away, 10 years. This asset class is going to go from 2 trillion to 100 trillion, right? That is a huge return. Using trends and everything else, and I said, I'm assuming I'm wrong by 90%, still worth 100 grand, and it's currently $200. It's the best trade you'll ever do in your entire life. And that proved out to be true.
If you want to invest right now, invest in AI if you can, but if you can't, invest in... Which coin do you think people should invest in?
This is my 30 years of expertise, is this one thing, which is asset allocation. And then the bull market really hits, the banana zone period, when things go bananas, prices go vertical. Money is just a scoring system that allows you privileges. And people lose track of that and think money is the privilege itself. The privilege is freedom.
这是投资银行高盛的前主管，也是金融知识教育平台 Real Vision 的创办人 Rob Powell 在欧洲最红的 Podcast 节目《执行长日记》的分享，短短3周就吸引超过220万的观看。AI 将如何改变世界？除了焦虑，我们还能怎么做 ？Rob Powell 为什么预测比特币未来价值一颗将超过100万美元？更认为加密货币可能是我们小资族未来生存的最佳机会。那比特币、以太币、Solana， 所以我们小资族应该要投资什么？如果你害怕工作被 AI 取代，正在寻找赚钱的新机会；如果你担心财富缩水，正在寻找更高回报率的标的。这次的影片就是为你而做的。如果你正在思考人活着的意义，最后 Rob Powell 还会分享他是如何花20年活出自己喜欢的样子，对我的帮助很大，说不定对你也是。嗨，我是 Emma， 带你在币圈趋势中打造属于自己的被动收入。在我们开始前，可以请你帮个忙吗？YouTube 后台显示有 76% 的观众还没订阅频道。如果你喜欢我们的影片，免费支持我们的方式就是点下订阅按钮。每周日都能收到币圈最新的消息，更不会错过任何的财富密码哟。谢谢。
The first one was, how do I spot a trend? And when I say that, I mean, how does it feel in the moment? Because the trends that you capitalized on and the trends that I capitalized on, they feel a certain way at the time. And here I'm talking about like how disruptive they are, contrarian, what people will say to you. They'll tell you you're an idiot. And then with that as well, you talked about how right now in the world we live in, betting on things like nature is a good idea. And I actually did a post on my LinkedIn about exactly this. I said, my investment fund is backing 2 things at the moment: AI and automation, and the exact opposite. Because I saw this viral video of people in, I think it was like a cafe in Amsterdam, who come now every week, no phones allowed, they read books and they knit. And this cafe in Amsterdam is like exploding. I'll put the video of these people on the screen for everyone to see. And it made me realize, and that overlaps with what 2 billionaire friends of mine said to me in private. They said, these are billionaires that invest in AI, they invest in crypto. You probably know one of them. And they invest in psychedelics. They said to me, if you want to invest right now, invest in AI if you can. But if you can't, invest in entertainment and community. Because in a world of AI where productivity is so high and we maybe move towards some form of universal basic income where the government just hands people money, people are going to have so much free time on their hands that they're going to need something to do with it. So he said to me, this is why you're seeing this rise in people buying football clubs and these sporting franchises, because that's that's community and it's entertainment at the same time. So I'm throwing all of that at you.
Yes, the equal and opposite idea is, I think, very important. I just came back from 3 weeks off-roading in Zambia, living on a tent on the roof of a Toyota Land Cruiser that is off-road prepared and going out into the total wilds. And I can't express how in the present you become, how it cleanses your mind from all of the clutter, all of the things you worry about, the broken car or the whatever's going on online, the politics, it all goes. And it all becomes about, you wake up, who's going to make the coffee, who's going to put the fire on, who's going to do, and so the more time we spend online, the more we desperately crave. I saw it in the Cayman Islands where I live. So it's a Caribbean island, and it was 2022. And the world hadn't really recovered. You know, there was the high inflation, people were losing jobs, everyone was really uncomfortable with the economic situation. It was painful for a lot of people. We had a record tourist season. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? Normally, discretionary spending goes down in times like that. And I realized holidays had not become discretionary spend. They become a necessity as a reaction to work from home. If you're on your own at home, working for a startup or a company or doing whatever, it kind of feels a bit lonely. And so you start seeking out like-minded people who have like-minded pursuits. Now, that could be sporting teams. It could also be Chihuahua lovers because you happen to have a Chihuahua and you love it. And you'll talk to other people around the world. You now have no borders. This is this Balaji idea of the network states where you can create large groups of interest. So if you look at the largest group of interest in all of social media, it's actually crypto. Why? Because we feel like outcasts. We're new to something where something's happening. And you want to get together because you speak to 90% of your friends that don't care and they don't know what you're talking about. But you think this is the most exciting thing you've ever seen. So you will aggregate online with others. And this whole rise of people thinking they need to, the security of working for a large insurance company, whatever it may be, your whole life, getting paid and retiring has gone, which is why the rise of your podcast exists. Because people are searching for answers, new solutions to their way, and they form communities around it. They want to share their ideas, share their stresses and strains. This is becoming bigger and bigger and more solidified.
真的，我第一次接触加密货币时，发现有很多全新的应用，打破旧有的观念，超兴奋。结果和家人朋友分享时，他们却像看到直销或保险一样，立刻面有难色，害我超尴尬。后来我只好转向网络，才发现原来有很多人和我一样，更发现有些人投资币圈比上班赚得更多，太厉害了。毕竟台湾上班族低薪问题严重，与其期待老板，不如自己寻找出路，对不对？最常见的选择就是开 Uber， 很多人开着开着发现比上班更好赚，就离职开 Uber， 但还能开多久呢
？When you said that much of our society sort of functions and is based on the scarcity of knowledge, I really think we should just pause to make that real for people, because we all get it. Okay, lawyers, yeah, they rely on knowledge, but like I was thinking about how I got here in the morning. So if you think about my whole day today, I woke up this morning and my executives, some of the CEOs of my companies had asked me a couple of simple business decisions and I'd replied to them. Then I got in a car and I drove here. That's knowledge at the end of the day. It's someone seeing with two eyes. My driver outside sees with two eyes and drives me here. The biggest employer, I think, in the world, the biggest sort of profession in the world is driving. And that's knowledge-based. And if you go to San Francisco now, the Waymo cars are driving themselves. There's no driver in them. You can book a car that takes you from A to B in San Francisco right now that has no driver. I then got here, and what am I doing? I'm sharing. I guess we're probing to find knowledge and to share knowledge. I think about my whole day today. And then after this, I'm going and speaking on stage to share knowledge. I'm like, I don't understand. That's all knowledge.
Okay, so then do that. The next time you're going around London or any city, look out the window. Myself and Julian Battel, who works with me, do this all the time, is go around and say, what job is going to be replaced by a robot or the AI? Right, one thing, I was in Manhattan and I just looked out, I was in an Uber, bored, driving uptown to downtown. I looked around and I was like, holy shit, every car here is a professional driver. There's virtually no people who drive into the city to go to the office or whatever, right? So it's all Uber drivers, limo drivers, yellow cab drivers, delivery drivers, truck drivers. All gone. And this stacks up in pretty much everything you do. And that's how disruptive it is. And when the things that created value, the services economy and the manufacturing economy, don't need humans. Okay, what does that mean? Amazon already employs more robots than humans. Now the robots work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, never take a break, never complain, never ask for a pay rise. In fact, they get cheaper every year. Who's not going to do that?
So for the 4.5 million people shitting themselves as they listen to this,
Yeah.
what advice can we, including myself? I'm not actually shitting myself, I've got to be honest, because I see opportunity in all these things. And I think you kind of have a choice when you hear information like this. You can either let the cognitive dissonance overwhelm you and then reject it, which a lot of people will be doing now. They'll be saying, Raoul, you're wrong. Yeah. This is not going to happen. You're wrong. You're scaremongering. That's what one group of people will be doing. The other group of people will be, I guess, open-minded. And the third group of people will be leaning in to see where the opportunity here lies. And it all comes down to your disposition as a human. Are you scared? Are you excited? Or are you paralyzed?
If something is so clearly going to be your demise, not demise as in you're going to die, but your current way of doing things is going to be forced to change. Well, you can either fight it, as you say, be indifferent to it, or you can invest in it.
你觉得 AI 会改变人类的生活吗？我认为一定会，因为这就是趋势。如果你不往趋势走，过不久就会被时代淘汰。举例来说，以前开车上高速公路时，需要停下来人工缴费。2013年收费系统全面电子化，再也不用开停，对生活方便很多。但近千名国道收费员瞬间失业。2022年 ChatGPT 推出后，不仅可以向正常人交谈，更通过律师、医生、工程师考试。当我们惊讶 AI 的进步时，同时焦虑现在的工作会不会被取代，自己会被社会淘汰吗？那我们该怎么办？俗话说，如果你不能战胜他们，就想办法加入他们。
How does one invest in AI? Something that I think about a lot, because I believe the things you say. I believe many of your predictions around the impact that AI is going to have on the world, the economy, on all of us. And as someone that's an investor, I want to take part in that. I want to take part in the upside. So I'm wondering, do I just go buy Microsoft stock because they own a bit of ChatGPT? Do I buy Meta stock because they own because they own Lambda? Do I buy Google stock because they have Gemini and their models?
So here's the problem in the financial system. The average person watching this has no chance of making the money. They'll make normal returns, not supernormal returns. So Microsoft is whatever it is, $2-3 trillion company. What could it be worth? Who knows? 10 trillion, 15 trillion, doesn't really matter, right? That's a 5x. What, for the most revolutionary technology the world has ever seen, you make 5 times your money? That's not, but somebody else in VC or earlier, in some way, shape or form, or the entrepreneur will make all of the money. And this is the thing I don't like about the system as it is. It's kind of rigged against the ordinary person. So we're going to have your jobs replaced. You're going to have this societal change, and yet they don't get a chance. So yes, invest in technology. Don't own any other stocks. Own technology. And you will capture some of this. You're investing in your own demise. At least you'll get some high quality returns. But otherwise, the only way I can come up with, again, and we keep referring to it, is crypto.
What is crypto?
Crypto is just a technology. It's a lot of things to many people. It's just a database that's better than databases in the past. So right now, your database might be in your spreadsheet, and let's say you and I have a bet. You write it down there, and we get a third person to say, yeah, that was the bet they had, and this is what's happened. Okay. That is how databases, that's banks, that's pretty much everything we do in society is in this ledger system, it's called.
I've got a suitcase here, which is maybe a good way to kind of explain this. This is a bank. And inside the bank, which is, I guess, the middleman, you got money.
Yeah.
So could you explain it to me through the context of this, we'll call it the central bank, how the system currently works as it relates to transactions, the public ledger, etc.?
So, okay, in the old world, we both had our gold.
Yeah.
And we'd stick it in our safe or bury it in the ground. That gold was your gold. This was my gold. And I might try and fight you for it. That's what pirates did. Okay. And then we invent banks. Mm-hmm. And banks, we put it in there and they give you a note to say, Stephen, you've got one of those coins. Raoul, you got one of those coins.
Okay. So we've both got a note now saying that.
Yeah. And now we trust this bank to give us our coins when we want them because they're our coins. Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes sense. Safe as a bank, as people would say. The issue is in this world of smoke and mirrors, what's known as fractional reserve banking, they have taken those coins and given them to somebody else.
They've given my coins to someone else?
Yeah, they've lent it for money. So now that coin is not in there. But they've been given the money. So usually when you're just, if everybody pulls all the money out, there's not enough money. It's called a bank run. We've seen those recently, but that's a classic thing. So it's not your money because you don't actually own your money. The moment you put it in the bank, what you've become is in fact a debtor to the bank or a creditor to the bank. So you've lent them money and you get some legal redress that if you've got less than 100,000 euros, pounds, whatever the currency is, generally that's protected by the government, that if the bank goes bust, then you get your money back. But anything beyond that, you don't get anything.
But I've got a piece of paper.
Yeah, means shit. You don't own anything. Now, it's so big as a problem that so that was 2012 European crisis, exactly this. People didn't own their money. That person walked off with it, asked the bank for it. The bank didn't have it. Nobody's got any money. Where it's all gone. That's the same Ponzi scheme we talked about when you buy a house and use the cash flow to buy another house, right? If somebody takes away what's known as the collateral, suddenly it's all gone. But the issue was actually bigger because 2008 proved another thing, is that nobody owns anything. So the whole system itself is leveraged. So, for example, back in that time, the average US government bond, which is the safest thing in the world, was leveraged up to 30 times.
What does that mean?
That means 30 people thought that was theirs.
Oh, so I say that this is the bank in front of us, the suitcase, and it had one coin in it. When we put that one coin in, it created 30 more coins and gave out 30 pieces of paper.
Yeah.
So there was actually only one coin in the bank.
Yeah.
But they made 30 pieces of paper.
And that's all well and good if the collateral, the thing that it's secured on,
the coin,
maintains value.
Okay.
Or isn't pulled by one person. If you were the lender and you're original lender and you get it out and something happens, then all of these 29 other people are like, I want my coin back. And they're like, it doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. So we just created the coin.
Correct.
We just gave you a piece of paper, but there was no coin backing it.
Yeah. And the issue is, so that's one issue with the banking. The other issue is pretty much everything we do is created on this. It's called a ledger system. A ledger was invented in the Renaissance in the 1500s, 1400s, where what would happen is you have this on a accounts or balance sheet, you'd have these dual entry ledgers. And what it's basically saying is, I agree with you. And often we'd have a third party agreeing it.
Okay.
Issue is that's known as the Byzantine generals problem. It's actually a philosophical, mathematical problem that has been unsolvable until Bitcoin came along.
So which blockchain, which coin do you think people should invest in?
This is my 30 years of expertise, is this one thing, which is asset allocation. So firstly, the average person watching this is you need to allocate to this. End of story. If you're going to start somewhere, start with Bitcoin. It's just easy to do. It's widely available, through different, whether it's a credit card, anything, just do that. I don't care. Do that. and do it with as much money as you can afford to see go down 60, 70% and don't care. And expect that to happen, because that's what you have to see the long-term 150% a year. It's included within that is these downsides. Then I want you to put in some money every month, regardless of price, to build your savings in this exponential asset that goes up a lot. Okay, now you're set. You're on the journey. And then you want to figure out, how do I make the most money? Like you, I had Bitcoin to start with. I switched all of my Bitcoin into ETH in 2020 in Ethereum. And so I just owned that plus some NFTs and a few other bits and pieces, but generally it was that. And then in 2022, at the bottom of the bear market, I started to see the price of Solana seeing like it wanted to outperform Ethereum. Now, Solana, much like your thesis, I saw this massive developer community, passionate retail, and a difference in the technology. Because these are all basically distributed companies that sell block space. So you want to look for attractive block space. Bitcoin, it's the secure one. Ethereum, it's like the world computer, and everybody's building on top of it. Solana, faster, cheaper, feels more friendly, efficient. Yeah, it feels more retail. And I saw that, and the speed of which they can do things and the innovation and the developer community meant that I started switching and then switched all of my ETH outside of my NFTs, where I collect a lot of art, into Solana. And I've now been switching part of my Solana into SUI, S-U-I. And as a disclaimer, I'm actually on the board of the foundation, but it's like the next big chosen one. It's the group that came out of Facebook that built Facebook Libra. So what I'm trying to do is maximize my return. I'm a mercenary around, I'm passionate about this space and what it means, the technology and how it empowers people, how it can change the third world, how it can change the internet. But I'm also a mercenary for my own capital and for anybody else I can help. Now, it doesn't mean I always get it right. So in your particular circumstance, I would like, look, you'll probably be fine over time, but you're not maximizing your returns. But do you want to take the risk? Do you have the bandwidth to do that? And these are the questions we were talking about with work. It's the same thing. How much do you want to go down the rabbit hole? How much time do you have to invest versus the expected upside?
I don't have time. I'm spending all my time doing podcasting, building businesses.
And then just do what you're doing. Unless something says that Ethereum usage is falling off a cliff and developers are leaving entire, then don't worry about it, right? You're going to be directionally very right. Will you capture the best returns? No, nor will I. Some other rando will get, by luck, something right. But the average person, so I have this thesis that I've tried to help as many people with, this is from my own learnings and watching everybody else fuck it up, is what happens is you're given this incredible asset class. And at first you do an intelligent thing like own some Bitcoin or some ETH. And then you want to go out the risk curve because you see somebody else making more money. You understand you can. That's okay. And then the bull market really hits, the banana zone period, when things go bananas, prices go vertical. And you will see people online saying, well, I made $1 million today because I bought this meme coin. And you will lose your mind and you will start buying all the stupid shit and you'll go so far out the risk curve. And then when the music stops, the stuff you own will be worth nothing. And the more quality tokens will retain their value.
在2021年，我完全经历了 Raw Paul 所说的错误。一开始我也是投资比特币和以太币，紧接着遇到 NFT 热潮，所以我也买了许多 NFT。当时觉得自己很幸运，在预售期间有抢到艺人周杰伦分享的 Fanta Bear， 以及华人最强的 NFT 社群 FOMO Dog， 很幸运都在短时间暴涨几倍。但到了2024年，价值都已经下降超过 90%。或是2022年最红的跑鞋 Stephen， 每天跑步就能赚几万元，听起来很瞎，对吧？ 但热门到连网红艾丽莎莎都加入，最后很不幸也是惨赔出场。游戏代币更是下跌超过 95%， 真的超级崩溃。好险，最后发现唯一一种方法真的持续帮我赚到钱，所以我才会继续待在币圈，那就是放贷。将资金借给交易员，每天就能赚到稳定的利息，报酬率高于股票，但风险远低于 NFT、GameFi。再也不用担心手机通知币价暴跌亏钱，而是每天睡到自然醒，等着收利息、喝咖啡，更加速实现了当初想投资的目标，脱离有毒的职场环境，成功开除老板。最开心的地方是，当我将这套方法分享给其他投资者后，来自台湾、杜拜、香港的上班族们也都成功在币圈打造一份被动收入，一起实现躺平赚钱的目标。上个月我还受邀到香港分享这段投资经历，希望能避免新手再犯下我过去的错误，不用走弯路就能在币圈投资赚钱，过上每天睡到自然醒的生活。所以我准备了一个45分钟的免费影片，分享自己是如何从什么都不懂的投资新手，到现在成功打造一份稳定安心的被动收入。你可以在资讯栏的第一条链接中找到，并且限时免费加送投资比特币胜率 99% 的秘密，相信一定能帮助你投资币圈更顺利。
Okay, I'm going to ask you for a price prediction.
No.
You don't do price predictions?
Not anymore. And the reason being is because a lot of people listen to what I say, and therefore they then build a mental model around a price.
Mm-hmm.
And what you do is then you create a false comfort in what you're doing. But Raoul says it's going to X. And that stops you doing the work to make yourself test anything. And then you start extrapolating, well, I've put 10 grand in, and if Raoul's right, I'm going to have $1 million. Like the whole thing becomes this emotional journey.
Mm.
And so I've tried to stop doing it, because the best thing I can say to people is, listen, 2032, 2034, that is not long away, 10 years. This asset class is going to go from 2 trillion to 100 trillion. Right? That is a huge return. Now, some of the coins in that space will do a multiple of that. That simple thesis is why I built XPAM, the asset management company, Exponential Age, was just to capture this trend, to let, well, unfortunately, it's only for high net worth investors and institutional investors, but just let them go on that journey, get the hedge funds to take the risk and figure it out and do that. But if people just do that, give me 10 years, just give me 10 years. And if you do it 10 years and you're sensible, you'll be able to take a whole chunk of money out every few years, because it's quite cyclical. It moves maybe every 4 years. And so you can take a chunk out, cash it in the lifestyle bank, and keep moving towards that goal.
Well, as you were speaking, I figured out your price prediction based on your prediction of how big the asset class will get. So you gave me enough time to ask AI to do the math for me. And it says if Bitcoin has a 40% market dominance, the market cap of Bitcoin will be roughly 40 trillion. If there are approximately 90 million Bitcoins mined, the price would be around 2.1 million per Bitcoin. At a 50% dominance, the price per Bitcoin would be 2.6 million per Bitcoin. Today, as we sit here, the price of Bitcoin is $62,000. So if your prediction that the asset class gets to 100 trillion, and if Ethereum is 15% of that, then each Ethereum will be worth $125,000 per Ethereum. And today it's worth about $2,400.
Okay, so then what I do when I'm faced with something like this, when I first bought Bitcoin I wrote the first ever Bitcoin strategy piece and made a price prediction based on what I understood about Bitcoin back in 2013, 12. It was the first ever piece written by anybody. And I said, listen, I think it's worth $1 million. And it was trading at $200. And I had some basic maths, but same kind of idea, using trends and everything else. And I said, I'm assuming I'm wrong by 90%. Still worth 100 grand. And it's currently $200. It's the best trade you'll ever do in your entire life. And that proved out to be true. So let's assume that Raoul is more and I'm 50% wrong. as a $50 trillion asset class. You get to $1 million Bitcoin-ish, right?
Mm.
And assuming whether it's that dominant or less dominant and what happens to it, but you can see the magnitude of the returns. So that's a, 15x return in Bitcoin.
太厉害了 ！Raw 炮居然在10年前200元时就买进比特币，并看好到现在上涨快500倍。比特币真的成为有史以来表现最好的资产，并预测比特币在10年会上涨到100万以上。所以，如果你也看好比特币未来的发展，想让资产翻倍，最好的机会就是现在。我准备一份比特币懒人包，帮助你把握这次的时代红利。这份懒人包总结我过去4年在比特币投资中的成功与失败经验，分享了正确的投资心态和实用步骤。你可以在资讯栏的第2条连结中找到。目前已有超过500人领取，早早享受到了投资的回报。只要花3分钟看完，说不定下一位开除老板的就是你哦。
Well, you've said that the best trade is always quality of life.
Yes.
If your account is full of quality of life and quality of life experiences, that's the greatest trade on earth. And I'll continue to do that trade until the day that I die. What do you mean?
What is the purpose of life? Now, we can get very existential about stuff, and you actually go down these paths a lot with AI and universal consciousness and a lot of other stuff. But basically, let's just assume we're humans. Let's just assume maybe we've got one shot on this earth. Well, you might as well make the best of it. And people have got to remember, money is just a scoring system that allows you privileges. And people lose track of that and think money is the privilege itself. The privilege is freedom. The privilege is being able to live where you want to live. The privilege is being surrounded by the people you want to be surrounded by. The privilege is being able to bring up a family. Whatever your value system is, those are the things. So for me, I like living in nature. And that's probably key thing number one, but being connected. So when I bought a house in Spain, that was a huge quality of life thing because I've got a security of a house that I own in nature, in good climate. Okay, I'm fine. But really, experiences are even more powerful. If there is a true currency in the world, it's experiences. You know, as I said, I've just come back from living in the remote wild of Zambia. That is an experience that is incredibly valuable to me. And I've done a lot of these. That is what it's all for. This understanding and seeing of how the world is and the beauty and the marvel, the people, understanding people and not being fearful of people and not thinking about cultures except in terms of, oh, well, that's their culture and that's their culture as opposed to culture good, culture bad. Friends, you know, all of these things, these are the valuable things. You can't buy any of them. You have to physically go and spend the time and be uncomfortable. I've always said there is your comfort zone and where the magic happens. And these two Venn diagrams don't intersect. You have to be outside your comfort zone to feel the magic. If not, you're just doing life by numbers.
Do I need money to have those experiences?
No.
So what's the point in me doing all this, you know, Bitcoin investing, focusing and sacrificing my 20s?
You need some money. You don't. You can solve for it without. But it's hard if you're living in Ohio or Birmingham or wherever you are, right? To get some of these things. It might be, I want to be warm and dry. I want to, you know, grow my own fruit and vegetable. Whatever it is, doesn't matter, right? You can solve it by a number of different ways. But really, for the average person, I say this is like, if you want to live on a beach, you can either become a billionaire and live in St. Bart's, or you can go to Latin America and live on the beach for virtually nothing. And if you're living in an internet age, you can make it happen. But then what happens is maybe you want some more creature comforts. Maybe you do this. Look, I don't say that we should all be the Buddhist Zen master and say we need nothing, we can reject everything. But if we break it down to what is the feeling that I want, then you can solve it with money or without money, and you won't be disappointed. Because remember, the very beginning of our conversation is what makes people unhappy is when their vision of their future self and their current state don't meet. Now, if your vision of your future self is, remember I said, I want that peninsula in Spain where that family. So what are the component parts of that? I like sea, I like social life of people, I like natural beauty, and with somebody I love. Okay, that can be solved 100 different ways.
But in your life, did you have to shift from the building zone, the building season of life, to then the kind of enjoyment season of life?
I did in the middle, which was the lesson I learned, is I had done the investment banking and the hedge fund thing. I then opted out of the rat race. I wasn't the richest guy in the world, but I thought, you know what, if I can get a source of income, I can live and I can grow my olives and almonds. And I lived in a beautiful house on the side of a national park near a beach town in Spain. I won the lottery. And I started Global Macro Investor. That ended up becoming a much bigger thing because the financial crisis, and I predicted it and got all that stuff right. And so what I found is I'd semi-retired and I was surrounded by people who weren't really intellectually stimulating. I made some great friends, but you wouldn't have a conversation like this. And so I felt isolated. And then, you know, you live on adrenaline if you're an entrepreneur or you're in financial markets. And so you end up going out to bars and nightclubs, you know, and I'm like, I looked at it and I've been there 10 years. I'm like, I got to get out of this because I'm excited by life. I'm excited. I want to do the entrepreneur thing. I love investing. I just want to be around people who also did it. And by chance, I ended up building a house in the Cayman Islands because it was one of my dreams. I wanted a house on a tropical beach. I love diving, all of this stuff. And that was the signal to me to go, fuck it, I'm moving to Cayman. I started Real Vision and I started the entrepreneur's journey. And now I've got 4 companies and I'm busier than I've ever been in my life. I'm very happy doing it, but it's a chapter again. And it'll give me the lifestyle ratchet, but also the intellectual ratchet that I wanted to prove to myself that I can do some of these things.
虽然这段跟币圈投资没有直接关联，但会选这段是想要提醒我自己，并且分享给大家。今天大家来投资币圈，当然是为了赚钱。可是赚钱不是我们活着的目的，而是让我们过得更自由的方法。希望看到这里的每个人都能因为币圈活得越来越自由快乐。如果这也是你想要的，留言自由。我是 Emma， 还会继续分享关于币圈投资、被动收入的经验。记得按赞、订阅、开启旁边的小铃铛，并打开全部。还有 follow 我的 IG 哦，那你就不会错过这些知识了。我们下周见，拜拜。